All right, y'all. Thank you everyone for being here. We're going to start with some brief individual introductions and then we're going to get started with our presentation for this evening. So my name is Kelly King Jackson, she, her, hers, and I am the one of the co-founders of the Bayou Collective Giving Circle. Thank you so much for being here tonight. And I am with
I am Courtney Taylor, co-founder of the Bayou Collective Giving Circle. So happy to have you all with us this evening.
Awesome. And tonight is our information session for nonprofit. So we're going to talk more about who we are as a giving circle. We're going to talk about our process. But you are here tonight for our information session where you can learn more about us as we seek to learn more about y'all. We are recording this for those who cannot be in attendance. But we will not be having y'all all over the internet, so please do not worry about that. And this is really for informational purposes. So, our time together tonight is going to be spent, like I said, learning more about the Bayou Collective, about our vision and our values, who this session is for and who we're trying to outreach to, what we will be funding in our funding, this funding season, what our application process is looking like, and then time for questions. If you have questions as we go throughout, please be adding them to the chat. We will do our best to thematically gather the answers to those. We will also be providing, as a follow up, a kind of checklist for those of you who think you'll be going ahead and applying for funding from us. So just want to make sure that we're trying to keep our communication flowing. This will be the only information session that we're planning on having. But should that change, we would notify y'all since we already have your contact information. All right. I'm going to hand it over to you, Courtney.
All righty. So, good evening once again. Thank you all so much for coming and just listening to what we have to say, learning more about the Bayou Collective. So, really want to talk about why we are here, like the context, the vision, the moment that we decided we need to get together and we need to do something. So, as you can see on our lovely screen here, talks about the moment we're in. So only 1 in 3 Black-led nonprofits receive general operating support from a foundation between the years of 2016 and 2023, compared to more than half other nonprofits. So right now we already see the and we already see the inequity of what's happening in our communities, right? And so Black-led organizations are numerous, underfunded, and often invisible as it relates to the data that really drives a lot of philanthropic decisions. And so we decided we wanted to do something about that, right? And as we've seen over the past, let's see, I guess COVID was what, 5 years ago now? Post-pandemic funding shifts have reduced significantly, reducing operating support for our Black-led organizations, our Black-serving organizations. But the community need has increased tremendously, right? And so as we've seen the trend over the years, the money has went down, but the needs go up year after year. And so how do we help with that? How do we step into that gap, right? And so we're looking right now, especially as we looked over the last year or so, in our current economic time, we've got workforce changes. We've seen the number of folks that have lost employment. And then just the economic pressure, right? Economic pressure that has strained individuals, but just organizations overall from doing the essential work that we need to do for other people throughout our communities. And so this is one of the reasons why we decided we really needed to step in and to create the Bayou Collective. And so the Bayou Collective is a giving circle. It's a giving circle. It's a philanthropic tool where we are stepping in and being a resource. We're not the only resource, but we are a resource, an important resource. And you'll learn a little bit more about who we are as a whole.
All right. Um, on our screen, you'll see our mission and our vision. So I just want to be clear, we are not a nonprofit. We're not
Mm-hmm.
seeking nonprofit status. We have a fiscal sponsor. who holds the resources that we raise. But our mission is to be able to fuel the nonprofit sector by investing in Black-led organizations and the leaders who run them. We have a big vision for a thriving ecosystem of Black-led organizations in the greater Houston region. And how we work is that we work with other donors who are interested in funding Black-led organizations and ask them to join in, and we pool our resources to be able to then re-grant those resources out into the community. And that's really how we function and why we are here.
Mm-hmm. So, what we're building, collective giving is that tool. It's a tool to resource Black work. And so, think about Harlem Renaissance, think about rent parties, think about some of those things around that. This is not necessarily new work. This is just a reframing of work, right? And so, this is a collective giving philanthropic model. So, what we're doing, pooling our resources, we've got members that decided they wanted to contribute annually, and we're getting together and combining those dollars to help in supporting small organizations and giving out those operating grants, right? And then from there, we talk about funding the operating costs. So grant support staff, okay? Rent, technology, infrastructure, or just rest for our executive directors, rest for our leaders that are doing this work. I think often, many times we only think programs. Well, we know we need operating dollars, as far as keeping the rent, keeping those lights on to operate those programs. So we're focused more so on that in the Bayou Collective. Now, this is centering for Black donors, right? Black Houstonians, we've always given, but this is another way of strategy, organized philanthropy, and it really lifts up that tradition that I was just talking about. While it's not necessarily new, it's just reimagined, re-envisioned, and so excited to really be supporting the ecosystem through this work. And so with this, we are really going to be focused on organizations with budgets that are under $250,000 doing the deepest community work with the fewest resources. Please note that we had some great conversations, great dialogue around this, and we are very thoughtful and intentional about supporting the organizations in our ecosystem that are doing the work with the fewest resources, which may be different from quite a few other grant funding entities.
So let's talk a little bit about eligibility, our focus areas, and what we won't be doing with our grant making. And so we are focused on Black-led and Black-serving organizations. I'm going to give you the slides after. You don't have to write these
Mm-hmm.
down, but just know that we are really, really intentional that when we look at every indicator that matters to people, Black folks are struggling, and we know and believe that Black folks should be a part of the solution. And so we felt strongly that the organizations that we want to invest in are, yes, Black led, but also have a commitment and are prioritizing Black folks in their work. That doesn't mean that's the only folks that they serve, but it does mean that they are very intentional in centering Black people as recipients or partners in who they serve.
Mm-hmm. So, who can apply? I know that you all received some questions when you were signing up for this info session, but we wanted to talk about you qualify. What do you qualify as? So, one, you must be a 501c3 or a fiscally sponsored organization. Okay. Second, your executive director, your CEO, or president identifies as Black. This is a Black person. Three, I just talked about it a few minutes ago. Your budget is under 250,000. Okay. And then another one is your primary work. It aligns with one of our 5 focus areas. You all will learn more about what that is shortly. And then also, too, you serve communities in our 8-county region. So this is the Harris, this is the Galveston, the Fort Bend, the Montgomery, all of the counties within this region, the 8 counties. We want to make sure that your work is impacting that. Now, what do you not qualify for? if you are a for profit, okay? If you are a for profit entity, this will not work for you. Also, too, if your primary work is religious activities, now while we love the church, we don't necessarily want to focus on growing a congregation. We really want to focus on the 501c3 organizations, the smaller orgs that are doing some other work. Um, Three, if you actually have no formal structure, if you are not a 501c3, if you don't have a fiscal sponsor, then this opportunity won't be for you. Four, if your work is not in one of our focus areas, and if it's a small side program, really not your core mission, it really won't work for you as well. Okay. And then in addition, I said it before, I'm gonna say it again. If your budget exceeds that 250,000 threshold, then this opportunity unfortunately won't be for you too. So if you kind of see where we're going right now, under 250, or operating funds must be 501c3 or fiscally sponsored, serving in our areas, Black led, Black serving organizations.
Yes. If you're starting to have specific questions, now's a good time to start queuing them up into the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Courtney mentioned our geographic focus, so I will not belabor the point. I will say that our grants committee is especially interested in work that's happening outside of Harris County. So we know there's a lot of funding opportunity in Harris County. We want to see and invest in Black leaders who are in the outlying counties. And so we really encourage you to apply if you are doing work in the outlying regions. It's not that we will not fund in Harris County. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we're not going to center Harris County in this work. We're going to really be expansive in where we look for work that's happening.
Bottom line is we want to show love to everybody, right? We want to show love to a variety of different geographic areas. And so, yes, we want you to serve Harris County, but also where else do you serve too? So, what we fund, operating support in our 5 areas. So we just talked a little bit about operating support. Um, but it says this is specific and it's intentional. So operating versus programmatic. Earlier I said it, I'll repeat it. Staff salaries and benefits. You paying folks, you got benefits to pay for, rent and utilities. We know you can't function for your organization if you need to pay the rent for the month, right? You need to pay the lights and make sure you can have somewhere to go and operate your programs out of. Technology and software. Those are big things that we need for, our organizations as well, tracking data, all of that fun stuff. Communications and outreach, same thing. Organizational infrastructure, and also leadership development, making sure that our leaders are taken care of. If there's rest, if there's professional development conferences, or the things that our leaders need, those are things we want to learn about. Those are things we want to hear about. Yeah. Shifting a little bit about what we do not provide funding for, and that's programs, any type of programmatic funding. So a specific program or project, we're not necessarily looking at that. And we're not necessarily looking at time limited initiatives. And also, too, while we know there's a ton of events, galas, luncheons, golf tournaments, play shoots, whatever you want to do, and campaigns, we're not necessarily looking toward funding those either. We would really want to put ours more toward the foundational support of the organization, which is that operating support. So just keep in mind, no events, y'all, for this grant.
All right. So wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about the operating budget. So when we are talking about our operating budget, so that we're all on the same page, we're talking about the expenses of your organization. In a good year, we raise more than what we spent, right? We all want that year. Um, so what we're looking for is for you to tell us how much does it cost to run your organization. And for those who aren't clear on where that might be on your 990, if you're doing the full 990, it's on Part I, L18. I do not know on the easy where that will be, so I can't tell you that. But if you have a bookkeeper, they can tell you what your operating budget is if you're not sure. If you have QuickBooks will tell you what your expenses are for the last calendar year. So just wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page about where to find the information to tell us what your operating budget is. We are going to look at your 990, but just wanted to share that you will self-report what your budget is here. We're going to now
Okay.
get into the programmatic areas. And so I'll kick it back to Courtney to start us off with women's health.
Okay. I'm gonna say it's our more so on our focus areas. We don't want to mix the program up.
Oh,
So
sorry. Yeah.
our focus areas for our funding this year. So women's health. So really want to hone in on the organizations focusing on improving physical, reproductive, or mental health of Black women and girls. So it could be maternal health, it could be reproductive health, education, any type of wellness and screening programs, mental health services. And also keep this in mind, you do not have to be a clinical provider to apply for this either. Now, what we're saying is what does not qualify is general health services without a clear focus on women's health outcomes. Okay? So any type of general health services without a clear focus, we more than likely we won't look at that. So this giving season, we are specifically interested in organizations, once again, maternal health outcomes for Black women and organizations providing mental health services designed by and for Black women and girls. So I know it's pretty specific, but we were really intentional when we created the pillars.
For workforce development, we're looking for organizations that help folks gain new skills, get new credentials, and support their needed for employment and or entrepreneurship. So whatever support they need to do that work. So those are things like job training, career readiness, etc. We're not looking for workforce development focused programs that only are focusing on education or youth enrichment if it doesn't include employment preparation. So serving youth is great, if it doesn't have an intentional workforce development component to how you all are thinking about your work, it's not going to be a good fit for us. So this giving season, our grants committee is really interested in organizations that are supporting Black entrepreneurs and job seekers that are outside of the traditional workforce pipeline. So this is folks who've been impacted by the justice system, women who may have been stay-at-home moms who are re-entering the workforce, people who are outside of the city center, so both suburban and rural communities, where we know that important work around this is happening, but it's often not funded. So in this particular area, this is what our grants committee is interested in seeing in proposals for this priority.
Okay. Next up is going to be cultural arts. So organizations that focus on artistic expression and cultural preservation, really rooted in our Black culture. So what qualifies? Performing arts, visual arts, cultural heritage programs, and arts education rooted in Black culture. What does not qualify? General arts organization without a specific focus on Black culture or cultural preservation. You guys see a theme here? So we really want to focus on celebration of Black cultural heritage in Houston and the surrounding areas. So just think about, does my organization fit within these parameters?
For financial literacy, we're very interested, obviously, in our collective financial health, our knowledge, our economic stability. We're using some buzzwords in Houston round about economic mobility is the word phrase they're using right now. So things like financial education workshops, credit counseling, all of those good things. But this year, our grants committee is really interested in things that are focused on Black land retention, heirs property work, home ownership, generational wealth building. So if you're doing that sort of work with Black people at the organizational level, we are definitely interested in seeing that work. We are not funding direct cash assistance with this funding this year, and we're not funding things like loans that don't have some sort of financial education or capacity building component in built into the work.
And then youth development. So, youth development, organizations that really focus on academic, leadership, or personal development for young people. So, what qualifies? Mentorship, academic support, leadership development, and programs serving youth involved in child welfare or juvenile justice systems. Again, we really want to be a bit specific in this space as well. And so, we were looking at some different info, data, and statistics, but also with our research that we've done here throughout the area on child welfare and juvenile justice systems, and really looking at those youth that have been impacted in those particular spaces. So it says what does not qualify? Programs primarily focused on child care or recreational activities without a developmental or leadership component. So if they don't have those two components in that, we will not necessarily look at them for qualifications, right? So we are especially interested in this particular giving season, serving young people in under-resourced neighborhoods outside of Houston's urban core, including those providing mentorship and leadership development that connects young people to Black professional and civic networks. We have so many within this region that it's a great way to be connected in that space.
Um, Courtney, should we stop for some questions here, or do you want me to keep going?
I think we have a couple of questions in the chat.
Okay, you want to
Um,
feed them to me?
yes, so we have one question that says, when you say outline, what about rural East Harris County?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That does definitely count. And there is another question. I believe someone asked about our giving season, and
Uh-huh.
we will share that too. I could have sworn I just saw that in here
It's
somewhere.
okay. So our giving season for our members is we raise resources between December 1st and Juneteenth of each year. And then we award our grants in at the end of August. So August
Mhm.
is Black Philanthropy Month. It's also Black August. It is also
Mhm.
Black Business Month. And
Mhm.
so we felt like that was a great time to get resources out of the door. And so, yes, and this is our first giving season. So we are only the second Black woman founded giving circle in Houston. We are in the lineage of New
New
Giving
Giving Collective.
Collective,
Mhm.
who did some really great work before the pandemic. And we're coming behind them and starting our giving circle. So this is our first giving season. And so we're really excited to continue to build this work out.
Yes. So inaugural giving season. Excited to be here. Thank you all for just coming and tuning in with us. We've got so much more to talk about this evening, but thank you. And so we've got one more other question. It says, can you be a little bit more specific about what is considered outside of Houston's urban core as it relates to the youth development programming?
It would be those work that's reaching youth outside of the center of city of Houston, right? So um, whether that's, youth out in Conroe, youth in Fort Bend, youth who are down on the southeast side or southwest side, right? We know a lot of our work still happens in the crux of the city, and our youth are all over the region, and so we want to make sure that those young people have access to organizations who are doing work intentionally designed to serve them. I know we've said several times there may be folks on the phone on the call who do a really specific program that's really great around a specific issue. We're interested in organizations that focus on these issues. And so that is definitely a distinction that we want to make sure that we're clear so that folks have a good sense of where we're landing. We don't offer programmatic support, and so for the issues that we care about, your organization will focus on maternal health, or your organization will focus on youth who are impacted by juvenile justice or child welfare. And I hope
Yes.
that answers that.
And there's more questions that folks are asking about other outlying, other things outside the loop, Katy, Texas, Humble, and
Hmm.
things of that nature. And I would say yes, because and please, guys, we still love and are focused on Houston, but we would love to see what reaches outside of within the loop, you know? So definitely there's we know there's things happening in Galveston, we know there's things happening in Chambers County and Baytown, we know there's things happening in Rosenberg, like it's all over. So I would love to see where does the reach go for your organization.
Yeah.
Um
That feel
yes.
like the main themes on the questions or anything that's outlier?
Someone says how far out when we say rural. It depends. So
So
I'll say this:
the
do you
eight
fall in the
counties,
county? Mm-hmm.
yeah, the eight counties would be your guide. As long as it's in one of the eight counties, that's what we care about. But when we're talking
Mm-hmm.
about Houston, we're just trying to not center everyone who lives in the loop.
Sharing the love. So just think that way. But we're looking at work within all the different counties. Okay,
You want me to keep going or?
we're good. You can go to the next
Okay.
slide.
All right.
Okay, what we look for. So I said this earlier, I'm gonna say it again. 501c3. Your organization is a registered 501c3. So I would say it's going to be really important for you all to go make sure your 501c3 is active and updated right now. That's going to be extremely important when it comes to this funding. And then also, if it is not, do you have a fiscal sponsor? Do you have somebody that is sponsoring your current work right now? Because organizations without a formal structure and also, an online footprint can be more complex to vet. So just be aware of that. So when we say online footprint, is your website up to date? Do you have social media pages? Can we find if we were searching for you? Is there somewhere we can find maybe a 990 or your 501c3 paperwork? Like what comes up when your nonprofit shows up online through a Google search or AI chat GPT search? What does that look like, right? And so I just think that's something that you want to make sure that you all are thinking about and keeping aware of. Also, mission fit. If your core work doesn't necessarily align with our 5 areas, we might not be the right fit for you, right? And so we want to make sure that it really touches one of our pillars. One thing I'm big on is making sure that we don't necessarily mission creep and trying to make it seem like, oh, we do this and just so you can fit in a particular area. You straight stay true to your mission. And we may not be the best fit for you, but we just want to make sure that whatever you're doing, it does fit in our one of our focus areas. And then again, Black led leadership. You, as the executive director, CEO, or president, are Black. Your leadership is Black. Okay. So, Black led leadership, ED, CEO, president, Black. And then also going back to operating. We are focused on unrestricted, well, you can really explain, excuse me, how this is going to really help your capacity. How will a grant from us help you in, you know, your organization and the work that you do? So, will it change your capacity? What does that look like if you were to receive some funding for us for this year? So, don't just think activities, don't just think programs, because we're looking at operating support.
So for us, these are not the questions. We haven't finalized the questions. We are working our grants committee is working to have a streamlined process. So when we say we have to be able to find information on you online, it's because we're trying not to ask y'all for things that we could find on our own. And so that is really important to us that we make this process doable on your side. And so we want to know who you serve. So be specific about the communities that you're working with and why your organization is the right one to be doing this work. What is your core work, right? We don't need to know everything that you do, but what is your mission and what are you all what were you created to solve and to do in our community? Um, how will these operating funds help your capacity, right? So what would money towards rest for your executive director mean to you? What would money towards your operating allow you all to do that you weren't able to do before, or you could only partially do before? And so how we're thinking about learning from you, in addition to you telling us a bit about you, is looking at your profile in Candid. So candid.org has, if you're a registered nonprofit, they have your information in there. If you haven't claimed your profile, now would be a great time to do that.
Mhm.
Most donors are using Candid and GuideStar to look up organizations. So you want to make sure your organization's information is updated and reflects who you are today. GuideStar, which is where we can see your 990s. We will look for those publicly and not try to ask you to give that to us. We'll look at the IRS website to see if your C3 status is current. So we're trying to do our due diligence on our side to make your time spent telling us a little bit more about you. I can do this one, Courtney.
Okay.
So we also talked about, as a committee, how we wanted to weight, what was important to us. And so you will see here the point breakdown. Values alignment. I don't know why we didn't have our values on the slide. That's my bad. I will add those in there. But please, Courtney, if you have capacity to grab our values page on our website to drop in the chat. If not, we'll make sure to add
Yes.
it and send it out to y'all when we follow up. But making sure that we're values aligned, making sure that your work is rooted in the community. And that includes your leadership, your board, your geographic presence. How impactful is your organization? And will this grant help boost that? And then organizational fit. So, how are you aligning with our key funding areas? Is the last area that we said we would do our scoring around.
I am going to drop
Drop
something in the
that.
chat.
I'll keep going while you do
Okay.
that. And so here is a high level timeline of where we are in our process. And so our application will open on June 20th. And so you'll receive an email from us to be able to apply if you all decide you feel like you're a right fit to apply. And then the application will close on July 15th. So we're not having a long application, so we're not going to have a long process. We're not going to belabor the point. Our grants committee will be working diligently to review your grants, and they will do the initial scoring and ranking, and then they will send their recommendations to the full membership, and then we will take a final vote. And then we will award grants on Thursday, August the 27th. So that will be our celebration where we will invite our community to come together to celebrate the great work that we learned about and the great work that we were able to fund in our first given season.
And Kelly mentioned this earlier, but we have been really intentional about um, this month because August is once again, like we said, Black Philanthropy Month. It's Black August because it's also Black Business Month. But we really want to elevate the philanthropy that's happening in that month, and so August 27th is important for us that we are celebrating our Black-led organizations, our grantees that evening throughout that. And then actual 8/28 is actually Black Philanthropy Day too. So just want you all to know that as well.
Yeah. One of our partners, Black Impact Houston, will be having their Giving Day. So 8/28 is a national Black Giving Day. And
Mm-hmm.
so every led organization in the US is encouraged to lift up 8/28 Day. And so we will be joining with our partners on 8/28 to one, celebrate the work that we were able to resource, but also to lift up all the amazing groups that we learned about even through this process, that some of them we knew
Mm-hmm.
about, some of them that we didn't. And so there's some other work that's happening behind the scenes that includes us and others where we're trying to really do a better job of telling the story of the Black work that happens in this region. So stay tuned also for a lot more things that are going to be happening to support that work. So,
Okay.
question.